This is the first day of the September 88 7-day retreat. And at the beginning of the talk, because there are a number of people who haven't been here before, people who haven't been here in a long time, and then all of the rest of us, let us say something about listening to a talk, and also this relationship between you and me. One may have heard a talk like this, a talk number 1, many times. So, what is the state of the mind listening to a talk one remembers having heard before? Is there anticipation of what is going to be said? Or as something is being said, is the memory listening? Knowing what is being said from memory? Likewise, we can ask, is what is being said from memory in a rote fashion, mechanically? There are different states of mind, and the state that is most of the time responding, thinking, reacting is the state of memory. Our language comes from memory, and very often the way we automatically say things, we don't even have to think about it. It comes out. Let alone look at what we are saying. We're so habituated to talking to each other or to ourselves along very habitual, mechanical, automatic, imprinted ways, lines. So here we're asking, can there be a talking/listening which is not totally fueled by memory, except the memory of the language that is being used and the memory of examples that are being used, but not that these automatically run off the line, but are being looked at in a new way? So can there be a fresh listening which puts aside what is known and listens now? When the thought comes up, that I've heard before, I know that, then to see the different functioning of the mind at that instant, to be aware of it. That from an openness there is a narrowing to the narrow channel of knowing. And can that be seen? And seeing is never from memory. It has no memory, it just looks now. Ears and eyes and whatever all is involved in it. The total organism is involved in seeing. It's not from memory, it's now. Open. Listening and looking at the same time to see what whether what is said is so. No one can do that for us. We can only do that ourselves, to see whether what is heard, said, read is actually so. Most of the time, almost all of the time, we take on faith, or whatever we want to call that what is said is true, if it comes from a respectable source, an old traditional source, or a sacred book. But here we're asking, can one find out first-hand, not second-hand, first-hand, first sight, whether what is being said or looked at is actually so? Verify for oneself as one goes. May not be able to do that at this instant, and not to take over what is said, not to take over the expression and make it one's own and use it. If it isn't absolutely clear that, yes, this is so. Verifiable this instant, not just because I verified it yesterday or an hour ago. I can see it again now. And it's the only value of listening to a talk or talking, is to find out from moment to moment what is actually true, actually so. There's no other value. There's no value in memorizing what is being said or attaching any particular importance to the person who's saying it. Then we get off from listening to what is being said to the person who's saying it. And a person becomes important. It's a shift from listening and looking to thinking about that person, making something out of that person, establishing images about that person, and having a reaction to the image of that person. Reaction of reverence or approval or disapproval, resistance or whatever. So we can ask that right now. Do we have images of each other? Do you have an image of this person sitting in this particular spot, in front of a microphone or behind a microphone as you see it from your spot? Of course we have images of each other, don't we? We can right now visualize each other, visualize a person. Remember, a person sits there, can have an image of this person. You've known him or her. And that image can be very accurate. You can verify it right now, looking at this person there. He is, she is. So there can be a very harmless, because accurate image of a person as one closes one's eyes. Or an accurate image of oneself, what we call a body image of the legs here folded in a certain way, the way the buttocks is in the cushion, and the shoulders, the head. Without looking, one knows what one is wearing, one has looked into the mirror, and can have a memory image of how this blouse or shirt looks. But we have more than just the mirror images of each other, which can be quite accurate. You have ideas about a person, what he is or she is in terms of past experiences or wishful thinking, remembered pleasurable experiences or remembered painful experiences, grudges against the person. all the ideas about, which have no basis in one's own experience, just ideas about this, what this person must be like, just because of where a person is sitting in a room. And these images of each other color our perceptions of each other, our present perceptions. Past images color and distort our present perception of each other. That's something that each one of us can instantly verify. As long as I remember a hurt that you've done to me, or a favorable, flattering thing that you've done to me, and that is there in the mind without being observed, without being aware of, that colors my perception. I can't listen to you freshly, clearly now. What I'm looking at is past tapes, listening to past tapes, which filter what comes in now. Sometimes they don't let anything come in now. One is so sure of what this person is like that everything the person does or says seems to only confirm that image, because of this filtering process. We have right now political campaigns going on which are total exercises in image building, image producing of the candidates. Learning, probably each one having coaches, maybe a team of coaches, how to appear, polling what people want to hear, and then coaching the candidate how to appear, so that what people want is being seen on the screen or in the rally, and then saying things about each other, building up undesirable images, unpopular images, and defending those. It's all image making, image creation, and so that we are fooled. It's done so that we're fooled. We'll vote for someone who we don't know. We only know the images, what the person says and projects. And very often these days, as this art becomes more and more refined and studied, and with the media and this instant feedback we have with television, the one who is best at it will get most votes. I don't know. It seems to happen that way. Because all the facts of what actually happened, what a politician does, may not get in the way of his image, which, as he or she comes back on television or stands in front or above a crowd, there the image is projected and the facts are forgotten or ignored. Can one become wise in this? See that happening, because one understands and sees and follows it thoroughly in oneself. Oneself is the initial and prime laboratory for all of that. So can image forming, image attachment, image building be observed as it happens and seen, discovered, opened up. So the process becomes increasingly clear. Increasingly clear that the image, no matter how accurate, is not the real person. What is the real person? In politics, there are factual records, voting records over the years and years. Here in our relationship, what are the facts? Because nobody asks to vote for each other. We're asking whether we can see for ourselves the truth of this moment, the truth of oneself and of each other. Not the image, not the remembrance, not the wishful thinking, what one wants to be or wants that person to be for one. Teachers want good students. Students want good teachers. So one creates each other in those images. Here all we're asking is very simply, what's going on this instant? And can image be discovered and cease so that we can really see each other for a moment, maybe, until the next image comes in. And see that too. It can all be seen. So in talking with each other, here the talk is just one person talking. In a meeting, we both talk and communicate with each other. Can there be a directness of communication or communion in which it is quite irrelevant? Did I say that right? Irrelevant. What happened in the past, yesterday, years ago. And looking together now, this instant, freshly, listening, looking. Looking and listening are not two separate processes. None of the senses are really separate. When there is no instant naming and knowing from memory, from image, then the senses operate as a whole. Together, open. And if knowledge, memory, past experience, and all that goes with it, wanting and fearing, if that doesn't operate in two people talking with each other, then there's no difference between the listening. Is one listening, one looking. It's not a matter of two people, because personality at that moment is irrelevant. Personality is what has been built up over our age-old conditioning, programming, different inherited traits and so forth make up our personality and how we've been responded to, and all of our conditioning is in our personality, in our inherited gifts and talents and so forth. But at a moment of looking directly now, with all the senses operating as one, looking, listening, feeling, touching, it's not, the two personalities don't matter. The conditioning doesn't matter. That is not of importance. What is of importance is the immediacy and directness of listening and seeing. In one person, two people, many people, the number doesn't enter in as anything important. What's important is not the holding on to my opinion or my point of view, which we do. We hold on to that as very important part of our personality. Very important part of me. I am my opinions and my points of view. What am I when I don't have those and don't represent them or hold on to them? And that's where fear comes up. And this is what this work is about, to face the fear that comes up when everything about oneself that one is either attached to or in disagreement with, that one likes or dislikes, when everything about oneself is questioned, is called into question. Not critically, but fundamentally. Where does it come from? And is that all we are? And what are we when there is no attachment to personality traits with its opinions and past experiences and knowledge and then what is there? We're questioning that, not by rote, not mechanically, but fundamentally, in a sort of curious and interested way. And listening right now, can there be listening without knowing? Even though the words wind and rain and storm and trees, those words may just swirl around the brain. But those words one can see quite clearly right now, can't one? The words wind, rain, trees, swaying, branches, leaves, all of those words aren't the actuality of the sound. That sound is no word, is no memory or idea. It's just simply there. And can the listening also just simply be there? Not my listening or you listening, but listening. Regardless of our past. Our past says this is a tree, or if we may ever have been hit by a falling branch during a storm, there may be that fear evoked, associated with listening to stormy sounds. This is our personal past, listening. So, can there be a listening which does not abolish the personal past? That's impossible. But see it for what it is, memory, thought, image. And that collection of memory, thoughts, and images is not this actual sound right now. That's something different. So can our relationship with each other be one of listening together, looking together? Images that come up, seen for what they are and put aside so they do not distort the listening and looking together. Distort or impede it. If one thinks this person can listen better than I do, a whole mechanism of feeling inferior, inhibited, blocked sets into motion. Comes with comparing ourselves unfavorably with someone else, which is not something new now. It hooks in all our past comparing ourselves unfavorably with others, or being compared unfavorably with others by teachers, parents, friends, and the anxiety and pain, hurt that has happened in connection with that, all of that being invoked at this instant of comparing ourselves unfavorably. That's the amazing thing with this brain, which is associative with all of its neural connections. That one thing that's happening now, if it is not happening in the clarity of awareness, trails the whole past with its feelings, emotions, responses, memories, repressed and unrepressed. And obviously in those we're not just standing alone, we're linked to all the emotions that our parents had when they reacted to us. Their fears and anxieties and wishful thinkings are manifest in our own feelings, and their parents and their parents. So one can quite simply say, you don't have to accept it, you can see it for yourself, question it, that in reacting unawares, automatically, this instant, the whole past is reacting. Not just my personal, but everything that I'm linked with through association, which is everything. Because somewhere, someone is linked with somebody else and somebody else and somebody else into the infinite past, which includes our animal ancestors. We still have, part of our brain is called the reptilian brain, the ancient brain, where very primitive responses are located. Fear, flight, attack. And that part of the brain has enormous power over our feeling and thinking, over our feeling threatened, feeling like escaping or attacking. And it's ancient, just like the whole brain is ancient, evolved over thousands, 100,000s of years. As long as there has been life on earth, it's been the beginnings of a brain. So can there be this flickering of insight, glimpses and glances, that what is responding right now and what one is responding to right now may not be the actual thing, it may just be a whole remembered past. And if there is a realization of that, doesn't it become tremendously, thrillingly interesting to find out what are we actually right now, you and me, if not just this unconscious past is responding, semi-conscious, unconscious, somewhat conscious, or to just witness it, see it happening. One has said something, one hasn't wanted to say that, one hasn't wanted to react this way, but here it came. Where did it come from? And is it appropriate? Let me look at you again. may have projected something onto you and onto myself which has nothing to do with this moment, but everything to do with the whole past. And then, of course, in that connection also to do with this moment, because unless there's some awareness or waking up, constantly is the past responding, meeting, two pasts meeting each other and responding accordingly. That's amazing. The question is very valid to ask, is there at all a possibility of freedom from that? Because if we look globally, leaving our little own small situation aside for a moment, looking globally, there's never ever been a diminution of warfare, conflict, aggression, fear, retaliation. Retaliation for thousands of years for something that has happened so long ago still has to be retaliated or avenged. And in our own small, tiny, nuclear circle, me and you, or me and my wife, husband, or children, are we also responding from the past, from our own upbringing, and bringing our children up accordingly? Anger coming up at something that the child does because this is what happened in one's own life. It's not deliberate, it happens automatically. And what also happens automatically is feeling right about it. Either right about it, or justified about it, or guilty about it. But nonetheless proceeding. Can one see the enormity of the problem? Of being free of the burden of past conditioning, not by shaking it, overcoming it, or escaping from it, or drowning it out, but understanding it, having insight into it. An insight or a seeing into, which is not of the past, which is totally fresh and uncaused, undetermined, not dependent on anything. It's happening on its own when the mind is involved in wondering about itself and looking and attending. A week ago, we spent some time together in Toronto with friends. There were quite a number of people. We'd never met each other before. And one person said to me, I am totally confused about what meditation is. Said that after a talk and question period. Totally confused. I've spent quite a bit of time meditating recently. I spent not just a week in a meditation retreat, but I spent 3 months. Just this last year, this person said. And there were incredible experiences during those 3 months. Peak experience, I don't know what word she used, blissful experiences. But now, this person said, being in a total state of transition in my life, done with a job, I think that's what it was, and not yet knowing what to go into. I find that these experiences not only don't help me any, but I use them and have been using them to get away from facing something directly. My feelings of utter insecurity and fear. And so forth. So what's meditation good for? What is it all about? And she didn't want to hear answers from me. She just wanted to talk about this. Struggle with it. Something sort of crumbling. Something one had held on to. When that ever happens, when something crumbles that one has held on to, can one go slowly in not immediately building something up in its stead? That's what the brain is suggesting to do, or is trying to do immediately. Build some new scaffold to hold on to. Rather than being with that state of uprootedness, not knowing where to go, what one really is, or what it is that one has nourished and cherished, questioning it all, and being in that state of no hold, and allowing all the fears of insecurity, pain, sinking feelings, which the physical organism produces as an accompaniment to the thoughts, to be with all of that. So holy. Without looking for a result out of that. Just being with it because it's there. Like the wind or the cicadas, the cool rain, or the gurgling in the stomach, pain in the knees, the sounds of someone moving. And this feeling of uprootedness, which one, if one really looks at it wholly, one will not name it any longer. One will not know it anymore. Because the knowing and the naming is the past. And this thing is now. And there's no method or practice on this whole earth to do that. It's just there. Either there is escape from it or no escaping. Then what is it? When there's no escape, no wanting it to be different. Just a new and open listening and feeling and looking and touching and tasting, all of the senses there. No interpretation either. We talked about that this morning. Someone brought up fear. We will talk about that in another talk. Give time to fear and wanting. But as a single thought, or more than a single thought, but a single thought is capable of getting the whole organism in a feeling, in a sinking feeling of danger, disaster, anxiety, falling apart, whatever. One single thought can evoke these physical feelings. And as this the feeling is experienced fleetingly. We don't really want to experience it too much. Try to get away from it, into more thoughts. But if there is some attention given to it, to this sinking feeling, anxious feeling, one can notice that regardless of the thought that elicited it, that may already have been forgotten or never been noticed. So just paying attention to this sinking feeling of imminent danger, feeling this way, physically feeling this way, with that goes a conviction that there really is danger. We have learned to interpret our physical feelings, emotions, sensations. We interpret them backwards. A fearful thought elicits the feeling of fear, and the feeling, in a certain way, convinces us that there must be something to be afraid of. Something dangerous around. And so the mind is doing what it does when it feels there's a danger. Usually just thinking more. And then with each new thought about what this danger is or could be or how to meet it or the running away, the escape, all of that having its organismic accompaniment. What we're asking in all simplicity is, can there be glimpses into this whole process? Not interpretations or analysis of it, but the immediacy of insight, a flickering of attention, not for long periods or short periods, it doesn't matter how long, but something new, something different. An instant of awareness, which happens. It happens all the time, but it's immediately shut out or überrumpelt is the German word. It's overlaid immediately by new thoughts. What's going to happen to me? Or I don't like this. How can I get out of this? Or just the appearance of a fantasy that provides an escape. So we don't lack moments of attention. What we lack is a sustained awareness in the midst of extreme discomfort, anxiety, and to see how falsely our thoughts can lead us into assumption of dangers where there are none, or they refer to past dangers, or the whole assumption that there is an entity here, which we will talk a lot about in the coming days, that there is an entity here that has that fear. So, whatever the state of the organism and the mind may be, the two of them are totally interrelated. Brain and organism is totally interrelated. Whatever the state may be, can there be a listening in the midst of it all? The brain may say, it's too dangerous to listen, you have to pay attention here and think more. Paying attention means thinking more about my state. So not to trust one's thoughts. or images or remembrances, but just to see them for what they are, and not to be trusted or relied upon. They're inaccurate most of the time. And even if it's accurate, the remembrance or the image is not the real thing, is not the whole thing. So even though the feeling, thought may be, I can't afford to listen, it's too dangerous. Can one question that assumption and listen? Listen in a new vulnerability. An undefended vulnerability. An openness, undefended openness of listening. That is not different for you or me. All of these mechanisms we've mentioned this morning are not different for you or me, or them or us. Here or northwest, east or south, today or 1,000 years ago, the same mechanisms. So in discovering in oneself the mechanisms of the mind and body, one is discovering the mind and body of all human beings, regardless of personality or time, historical time or space. It's the real beauty of this work. Because in this discovery of what is universally true for all of us, not just for me or my little group, for all of us, since time immemorial. In this discovery may be the seed of compassion, a sprouting of compassion, love. Love not of the personal kind, but a love, an explosive love. For everyone and everything. It's non-discriminating. Then if we ask, what is our relationship to each other? That word then, it implies a distance, doesn't it? One uses it, but one sees its utter limitations. When one really deeply sees that there is no difference, no distance, no space, except the physical space. separation. Let me still mention before the talk is over that if anything is unclear, you disagree, you wish to discuss what has been said in a talk or take it further or go over it again, that's what meetings are for. Please do that. I welcome it. And we're really working together. Don't accept anything. I can misstate things just like anyone else. I'm not infallible. May not remember what I said, but we can always start freshly from bottom line, from scratch. And clarify. That's what questions help doing. Questions help to clarify for all of us, including the one who is talking. Clarify our problems and obstructions and confusion. Which does not mean, I want to say it again, that you have to bring a question. You don't have to bring anything. We can start freshly in the room, as always new. We will end here for today.